allow everyone to come in as they can. I want to welcome you to the Community Connect Community Reads session with Redesign Family Service Collaborative. My name is Melody Hanson and I'm the program director for Robbinsdale Area Redesign. We are a collaborative, a family service collaborative serving the 7 cities, the community of Robbinsdale area schools. And I'm delighted to be with all of you tonight and our other panelists and our author and our mental health specialist, whom we'll all introduce in a little bit. Our focus in redesign is really working on reducing duplication, improving access to services, and just really improving community resiliency and success for families and students. And so before I introduce our co-moderator, Director Boone from the school board, it is our policy in our resiliency work to start with a centering or mindfulness exercise. So I invite you to join me tonight. Typically our days can be crazy hectic. The day can be filled with either joy or stress, and this is just a nice way for us to transition into our time together in this space together. So I welcome you to put your feet on the ground, feel the ground, feel the floor, feel centered with your feet. If you're outside, feel the warmth of the earth. If your children are with you, I would encourage them to do the same also. Relax your shoulders. You can open your eyes or close your eyes. You can, release the tension in your neck, kind of centering us as we move forward. And I'm going to kind of take a quote from our Mindful Schools work. And that quote is, "The best intervention is our own regulated nervous system." The best intervention is our own regulated nervous system. And as we talk about the wonderful joy of writing and community building, we're also talking about a topic of bullying tonight. And we may have different opinions of that. We may have agreeing opinions, but let's all kind of just center ourselves and agree to be in this space together. I will lead us through a deep breathing exercise. You can teach this to kids very easily. I'm going to use my finger and we're going to draw a rectangle. And we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds as we go up. We're going to hold it for 7. Exhale for 8. Hold for 7. And then repeat that. So again, you can follow along with your finger. You can keep your eyes closed, gaze down, focus on a centering point in your room. And we'll go ahead and start. Breathe in. 3, 2, 1. Hold it. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold it. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we'll do it again. Breathe in. Hold it. And exhale. And hold it. And last time, breathe in. Hold it. Exhale. And hold it. All right. Well, thank you for centering with all of us and being in this space with us. I'm going to turn it over to Director Boone to introduce himself and kind of the philosophy and purpose of Community Connect.
Thank you, Melody. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Robbinsdale Area Schools Community Connect Community Reads event. I'm the school board chair, David Boone, and the school board liaison to the Community Connect Committee, and also the chair of the Community Connect Committee as well too. So what is Community Connect? Well, officially Community Connect is a standing committee of the Robbinsdale Area School District and the school board. The committee usually meets about 6 times per year, every other month. And the charge of the Community Connect Committee is to recommend to the school board and district administration involvement in interactions and events that support the Unified District Vision, otherwise known as our UDV. Community Connect researches and initiates community conversations that build relationships with targeted audiences to assure student success, connect with families, parents, and guardians of our students, foster awareness of the benefits of pre-K through 12 education, engage community members such as district residents and businesses, promote ongoing positive community connections, and foster mutual support between the district and the community it serves, and share key messages of the district. The Community Connect membership is comprised of school board members, the Marketing and Communications Department, Achievement Integration Program Directors, or Director, Community Education Director, and up to 5 community members. Our Unified District Vision goals to which the charge of the Community Connect Committee is aligned is Goal 1, which is implement policies and practices that open pathways to academic excellence for all students. And Goal 3, engage family and community members as partners. Tonight, I'm pleased to be co-facilitating this event with our Redesigned Family Service Coordinator, Director Melody Hanson. Melody, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Director Boone. I think I kind of did, but I'm Melody Hanson with the Robbinsdale Redesign and the Program Director. And again, our goal and our focus is to focus on making sure that we are building a place where every individual feels welcomed in the community, in our schools, and has access to services and reducing those duplications. So some of those strategies that we work on include outreach to families, include early childhood home visits, include school-based mental health, and a whole lot of really fun things that build community. Before we get in, I think we want to let everyone know that this is being recorded and that we hope that you will participate by asking questions in the chat box. We'll make sure we'll try to get to everyone's question. And if we don't, it's because we ran out of time. The conversation was so good. But we hope that you will participate and engage in the conversation. And I hope that you've had a chance to read the book. We were going to put a link to the YouTube reading of the book in the chat. So I'm hoping that Edgar can help us with that. If you haven't read the book and you would like to enjoy cuddling with your child or with your family member and having it read to you, we do have a story theater person who has read the book on YouTube with the pages synced. So we can do that. You can look for that link on the website, I believe, once we're done with tonight. We also want to thank the story theater person, Jean Lipkin, who read the book for us that Layman, our author, wrote and did a really good job. If you're not familiar with story theater, you probably want to check them out because they are amazing at entertaining community members of any age with their storytelling skills. We also want to thank our Robbinsdale Area Schools Media Director, Arden, for syncing the reading with the pages of the book. And I'll turn it back to Director Boone.
Yeah, additional thank you to some of our Community Connect committee members, Edgar Aguilar, Fasia Dahir, and Letitia Lowe. They are here joined with us this evening. Along with Bruce Cross, our school linked mental health supervisor. So thank you to everybody that has put some time in to get this event rolling for tonight, and appreciate you being here as well tonight. So I do hope everybody enjoyed the book as much as I did. I met Mr. Riley years ago at a redesign meeting and received a previous copy of one of his earlier books that I think we all will get to. Book 7, Abraham Lincoln and the Battle with Depression. So a very good book. That was when I was introduced to Mr. Riley. So I'm excited for this evening, as we look at book number 8 in his series. So, I'd like to simply welcome Mr. Riley, to our event this evening, and thank you for the work you do with the schools across Minnesota to help students learn a love of writing. Layman lives with his family in North Minneapolis and has often been asked to assist many schools in helping students develop an interest in writing. Melody, we're gonna begin with some questions of Mr. Layman first.
So thank you, Director Boone. Again, just remind everyone that if you have questions for anyone on the panel or each other, please put them in the chat box so we can make sure that your words are heard and our answers are available. This is really an open conversation. It's a way to build community, and it's a way to learn and meet the goals of Community Connect, which are aligned with our unified district vision. So Layman, again, welcome. And we have our first question that has been posed for you is, can you share how and why you came up with the topic for book 8? This is a new book right off the press, and I believe we're the first community maybe to have multiple copies of this book. So if you could just kind of share, this is book number 8, and how did you come up with this topic?
Well, first I want to thank you, Melody, for having me, and Mr. Boone, thank you very much. And I am honored to be a part of this. And the reason why I came up with the bullying book was, well, it was, I had been through so many different school districts, and I seen a lot of kids being bullied in one way or another. And I thought this would be a ripe time to, start writing about bullying to help other kids vent on how they're feeling and have that conversation more of than physical altercation. And I feel like when we get that opportunity to just speak our mind and let the other person hear how we're feeling, it gives that other person the opportunity to receive that message that they received from that person. When I was growing up, bullying was so much different than it is today. Right now it's, you get the cyberbullying and you have the confrontational bullying. So you really can't get away from it, these kids today, because it's so easy to start bullying, and one thing leads to another from a phone and a computer. So I thought when I wrote that book, and it was really interesting when I wrote that book before the election. It was in that summer, and it was, I really have a fond relationship with the Hispanic community. I have a sister-in-law who likes to always invite us over, and I wanted to talk about her culture and learn about how it was for her when she came from Mexico to United States. So the little girl that is being bullied, she learned how to speak English through listening to Prince. I thought, okay, how can I get the kids excited about reading these stories and grasping what it's like to be different? So she knew she was coming to the United States, so she was a big Prince fan. So she learned how to speak English by listening to Prince music. And at the time I was writing it, why I inserted Prince in the book is because he had just passed away. And I wanted to honor him in the book also. So this little girl is an artist. She draws pictures and great picture she drew with Prince, and her favorite song was When Doves Cry. And so that's how she kept repeating the song, learning English. And I just wanted kids to see how hard it is for a new person to embrace a new environment and without judgment, you know. And these kids from Mexico are being judged unfairly. And I wanted them to know that there is a place for them in America so that they can strive to be what they wanted to be. So that's why I chose to use the little girl that came from Mexico to learn about bullying and so forth. So that's basically why I wrote that book.
So it seems like almost all of your books, or all of your books, are really based on some touch of real life in your life. And if I understand correctly, that your higher power gave you a message to write about diversity. And we live in a very diverse community. And so talk a little bit, if you could, about the diversity that you put into your books and why you did it.
Well, you know, everyone has a story, and true. I'd never even thought I was going to be a writer. You know, I wrote one story in college just to get a grade, not thinking that it would lead to me being the author of Papa Lemon's Little Wanderers. And I feel like there's so much to learn from each other with diversity, you know, and I don't want to just talk about one culture when I'm writing because, you know, I'm curious, you know, I want to learn from other people. And I think the more I learn, you know, the better person I am, you know, because I can embrace that culture. So I have written on Native American, Hispanic, European, and I have a little bit of Asian in my 5th book. So it's like, it's an opportunity for kids to talk about themselves and their culture. And when I go to the classrooms, I love to get them excited about their history. And so when they can talk about their grandparents, the other kid will like, oh, my grandparent is sort of like that also. So my books are based from my grandfather, Papa Lemon. And I thought, what better way to get kids excited about reading and writing is to learn about somebody they already know, you know. You know, it's hard to get some kids to do a writing project because they have no interest in that topic. But once you tell them to write about somebody they know, maybe it's your grandmother or it's your uncle, what was a great opportunity or great time you had with your family member. And that's when the kids get wide-eyed and I can see the wheels turning in their head and they grab their pencils and start writing. And I never judge their writing. I want them to understand that you're at this point right now and we're going to get you to the next level. And so when the ones that are low, they get to that point, the ones that are high, I don't let them, you know, belittle the other ones that are struggling. So I have them actually help the younger ones. So, you know, the struggling ones. So I meet them at their own level and build from there. And it's just a way to get them to get pen to paper and get their imaginations going and write their stories. So that's what I do. And it's been pretty successful. I've been around a lot of different districts and as far as California doing this. So I am really grateful to the school districts to allow me to work with their students and get them excited about reading and writing. So, and when I tell them, when we learn about each other, the better we are. The more we know about each other, the better we are. So when I'm done with the classroom, we're more than a classroom, we're a community. So.
That's great, because that kind of leads into was kind of my first question for you was, you know, what kind of tips or tools do you use to guide students in developing that love of writing? and starting their own story. And,
Yeah.
how can parents, we've got parents in this as well too,
Yeah.
inspire that same love?
Well, and that, like you said, that's a great question. And how it begins is with the family, your parents telling you those stories, about your family history. I was just so mesmerized and fascinated by my grandfather because he was born in the 1800s. And I used to just daydream about him when I was in the classroom because my grandfather was born in the 1800s and he had his own land in Mississippi and he worked the railroad. And I was actually bored in the classroom because I was hearing repetitive things and the teachers thought I had a learning uh, disability because I wasn't paying attention to her because I was so bored. And then when we had our conference, I let them know I'm bored. You're telling us the same thing. And so I went on my own adventure in my mind, not knowing it would be what I'm doing today. So I think my parents or uncles or relatives telling stories, it could be even a neighbor, the kids could be close to a neighbor, learning about that family history will help these kids create stories and want to write it down to preserve that person's legacy. So that's how I get them to write.
That's great. And the topic of bullying is one that was kind of interesting for Redesign as well, because when we looked at the Minnesota Student Survey, 51% of our kids had indicated they had been bullied most recently in the last month. So you touched on a topic that is prevalent, and that survey was done almost 3 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see where that is the next round of surveys, which happens every 3 years.
Yeah.
Another question came up, Lehman, about, so you had this idea, you wrote the book. How did you find an artist? Because you have some great artist pictures throughout your book. So how does one go, say we wanted to write a book in a family, and how do we find an artist? Do you have ideas?
Yeah. And I've been helping a lot of different authors with this. And it's what I do is I actually went to a college. I went to the Art Institute. And I asked them to refer me to some of their students that are illustrators. And then I interviewed a few of them and weeded out some. And I went with Josh Wallace and for my first designs of watercolor with my books. And we had a great relationship and we really fed off of one another. And I could just tell him one thing and he would really get it. And he could tell me something. And so I always want to work with someone that's not afraid to tell me no. I don't want a yes person. I want someone to tell me, well, I don't think that'll work. And that's how Josh was. We worked very well together. But I wanted to change the look of my books from watercolor to make it more crisp. And that's when Josh and I agreed that we should go our separate ways. No hard feelings, but you grow when you start your business. And so what I did was I actually went to Fiverr.com and I found a young lady in India who worked with me. Now, at the beginning, it was very hard understanding each other. Well, she couldn't really understand me. And so I had to really break down what I wanted my characters to look like, what type of clothes I wanted them to wear. And I had to really break it down elementary so she could understand what I wanted because she just couldn't understand the language I was giving her. And she finally got it. And she worked on a few books and the last book. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to use her again because of the pandemic, because it was really hit hard over there and I can't get a hold of her. So I'm hoping she's okay. So I have a 9th book coming out and just trying, well, I have the 9th book done, but I'm working on my 10th book. And my 10th book might actually be the 9th book. So I might switch them around and get that book out. But when I first started writing these stories, I have to say, I never thought I would be talking about like social issues. You know, it's just, I thought it was just going to be history. But it seems like things I talk about, I have to write about. And I'm not intending on writing them, like the heart disease book. You know, at that time, I was working on a book on Pavarotti because I wanted to talk about his opera. But during that time, my niece had a heart attack. And I wanted to teach kids about heart disease and Dr. Daniel Hill Williams and my niece and all of that. So I wrote that book, and I want kids to, you know, learn more how to have a healthy heart. And so with the depression book, with Abraham Lincoln, I never thought I was going to write on that book. That was a book that was so close to home, and I had to learn a lot about depression. You know, one of my daughters was battling with depression, and I was like, what are you depressed about? You know, you got your parents, you got home, you're in dance, and this and that. Why are you depressed? But I had to learn it was a lot of things, like chemical imbalance, and it could be trauma, it could be so many different things that can cause depression. So I wrote that book to help other kids that I seen in schools that's telling me stories about their lives. They're in the 3rd grade, and I haven't seen anything like that in my life, what they're going through. And so as I'm talking to these kids, tears are just running down their eyes because they have so much pain. And I'm like, when I first seen that, I thought I was going to get in trouble. But the teachers were like, keep going, you know, they need to get it out, they need to get it out. And these kids really have a lot of pain inside of them that they don't know how to release it. And so by getting that book to them is helping them have a conversation about how they're feeling and what can I do to help you. And so it's like a very important book. That book, I actually got a letter from a mother, I think she was in Alabama, where that book saved her son's life because he was about to commit suicide until he read my book. And that gave him strength to confront his bullies that were tormenting him. And now he's an advocate in the school to stop bullying and talking to kids about his depression and so forth. So, you know, as long as I save one kid, but my goal is to save more, you know, because that depression book is helping me today because I'm going through a little depression of the loss of my daughter. So it's never thought I'd be using it for myself, but you know, you talk the talk, now you gotta walk the walk. And I tell you, it is a rough walk, and I wish it had known. So if I can help anybody with the way they're feeling about depression, I am open. I just received an email from somebody about their daughter. They want me to talk to their daughter. I'm like, most definitely. While I'm talking to you guys, I just got an email. So I am more than happy to talk to young ladies to let them listen to your heart and feel that gut when it's telling you something. So that's my mission now.
So Layman, thank you for sharing such personal pieces of your life and such honesty. And what I took away from that was that you found the strength from writing, and others found the strength from hearing and being able to share. So it is kind of that sense of community all the way around. So thank you for sharing that vulnerability with us.
Mm-hmm. If I can help someone.
Yeah, absolutely. I know in the the bout of depression I've experienced, I know writing was therapeutic,
Mhm.
and that really helped me get my feelings out and try to understand them and uh, learn from them too. So this it is these books are absolutely wonderful to bring up those topics and bring them out into the mainstream, that we can talk about these things where we haven't been able to talk about these things uh, with each other, and we should be. And I appreciate that this book can be a conduit to that as well too, or your books.
Definitely. Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but so you've gotten, you say you're working on 9th and 10th book. How to the people that are out there, questions coming up. Well, how do you go about publishing one of these books? You write a great story. How do you get it shared with the community? How do you get it published?
Well, I started my own publishing company. So I'm an independent publisher. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to have control of how my characters look. I was very particular on how I wanted my grandfather to be portrayed. And I didn't want him to be altered in any kind of way. And if I would have went to another publishing company, it would be pretty, they have their ideas of what they want it to look like. So I thought, you know what? Let's start our own business. And my cousin and I, Paul Dixon, we went in and said, we started our publishing company. And through that, that's how we found our illustrator. And then we found our printing company. We used 2 different printing companies to print our books. And we register everything with the Library of Congress, get our ISBN barcodes, and it was really exciting the first time doing that, to get that first book. I remember the very first book I wrote was so bad. It was so bad. I was so embarrassed, but I was really excited about getting it done, and I just rushed it. And when it was off the press and I looked at it, I'm like, I will never rush a project again just because I'm excited. And so it normally takes me 3 to 4 months to write a book and have it printed. So 4 months about that time. So yeah, it's just something that I wanted to hold on to and learn as I go. So we did a lot of, there's been mistakes and there's been victory. So we found the right recipe, and we've been helping other people publish their own books also. So,
Well, I think that's a good lesson to learn for people to hear too, that you don't have to be perfect out of the gates.
no.
That it's trial and error. It's improving upon the product each time you go through the process and learning from that. I mean, as a veteran teacher of 28 years, I always tell my kids too, we learn from our mistakes and we get better from them and improve on them. And that's good to hear. Professional writer goes through those things.
Yeah, you have to, and you can't be afraid, and it's a scary thing to write a book, to be honest, because you're putting yourself out there for hopefully millions of people, but in my case, thousands of people have looked at my books, and that's your inner thoughts and your writing. And yeah, it can be intimidating, but once I finished my 3rd book, I'm like, okay, I think I can do this, because the first book, when I wrote it and I handed it off, and everybody loved the book, the Dr. King book. And I was like, oh my God, I'm scared. Everybody likes my book. What am I gonna do? And the guy said, I have another book for you. And I wrote the Harriet Tubman book. And I got the same reaction. Everybody loved the book. And I'm like, oh God, I'm scared. Everyone, they're expecting all these great books from me. What am I gonna do? He says, I have another one. Didn't I tell you I have you? And I did the Navajo Code Talkers, my favorite book that I wrote. And that one was really received well. And after that, I'm like, I said, okay, I got a handle on this. So it took some time for me to get my courage and keep the confidence, because it can be really iffy, but I have a really tough critic in my wife. She really don't care about my feelings if I write something that's not too good. She'll put me in my place real quick. So sometimes I'm hesitant on her seeing it, depending on how I'm feeling. But she is very, very critical of my writing and like tells me straight. So, but I'm glad she does because it just makes my book better, and so you just go from there.
Great partnership to have a great proofreader and somebody that can.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've only met your wife once, but I would have a hunch that all of her criticism is out of love. So good.
Okay.
You mentioned before that you didn't start out with the desire to be a professional writer or a writer in any way, shape, or form. But yet here you are and inspiring others and really touching on topics that are emotional and true and real, and going into schools and helping other young people learn the love of writing, which all of our students need to learn to write. They have to pass writing tests and college entrance and employment exams, things like that. So writing is important. And I'm just wondering, we've had some questions about what's the youngest age you've ever worked with, and how would you encourage a family to have a young child develop at the start of writing?
The youngest I work with in a classroom has been third graders.
Okay.
Now I have did a lot of speaking engagements with second graders, but to actually work with the kids at the third grade, as high as eighth grade, I work with some of the kids that are struggling in middle school. You know what? I lost my thought.
Tips for families or teachers
Yeah,
or classrooms or mentors on how to start that
yeah,
about writing.
yeah. Like it's all based with family connection and community. I mean, you have to have someone that gives you that little push, that tells you that you can do it. And I want the kids to know that the pen is so powerful. Your words can change a life, so I always want the kids to know that whatever you write can help someone, so, and you can always look back at your work when you were at this age. And, I have stuff that I did when I was in, not writing, but art. I was into art, but I found a piece I did in 1974. And it's like, I'm looking at what I wrote on there, and it's like, wow, I guess I was always this way, and my kids see it. And, I just like to leave things for the next person. So my kids will think about, okay, this is what dad's always talking about. And so now I want to leave that for my granddaughter, so she can see that her great great grandfather, Papa Lemon, was such a great man in that town of Mississippi. And hopefully she'll think that about her grandpa. So, I spoil her so much. That's my little girl. But I just think family legacy needs to be carried on in any form that you can. And I know it's hard for some kids that don't have that opportunity. And that's when I encourage teachers to get that connection with that kid who don't have that grandparent or that older uncle to write about. When the teachers start telling them their story about themselves or their grandparents, they're more than that teacher now. That teacher is that kid's step to the next level. It's that kid's courage. It's that kid's comfort, because that kid know a little bit about that teacher. So now I'm more inclined to talk to my teacher and how I'm feeling. And we need more teachers to be more empathetic for these kids. I'm not saying they're not, but they need to be in tune and be willing to reach out to them, because some of these kids, like I said, what they're going through, I can't even imagine. You know, I'm 58 years old, and these kids have seen things at the age of 8 and 9 that I can't even imagine how they can go to school after seeing that. So we have to be very mindful of those kids and understand when they're acting out, it's more than just, I can't do it. You know, there's something going on.
So that writing or arts is one way to deal with some trauma that you may be going through or have experienced. And writing could take the form of music. It
Yep.
could take the form of poetry.
Mhm.
So whatever is interesting to that age and that person at the time. And you've talked a little bit about your different topics, but I haven't seen this question come up yet, but I bet there's people wondering, how come you call your grandpa Papa Lemon? And maybe you could share just briefly with us, why Papa Lemon?
Yeah, yeah. That's a story that my mother told me. My grandfather, he was born in 1896, and in 1898, 2 years old, he's just real fussy and real cranky. And his real name was Walter. And in 1898, he was really fussy, and his mom said, "You're just as sour as a lemon." And no one ever called him Walter after that. So from 1898, all the adults would call him Lemon. And as he became an adult and had kids and grandkids, they started calling him Papa Lemon. My cousin was the first one that called him that. I think it was in 1951. He just started calling him Papa Lemon. And so that's how it was. Even on his driver's license, it said Lemon Kane. On his tombstone, it was Lemon. He never ever went by Walter after 1898. So after 1896 or something like that. So yeah, 98, that's how he came about to be Papa Lemon. So, and he was a great man to me. I thought he was a celebrity because I see no prejudice when I was in Mississippi. This is in the 60s. And all I would hear was, hey, Lemon, you know, from Black and White. And he would take me to Miss Annie B's general store, nice little white lady. And they were friends for years. And she would always ask us what it's like, what is it like up north? And what do you kids, you like it down here? And we go, it's too hot, it's too hot. I mean, they didn't have air conditioning down there. So, but we'd drink Dr. Pepper and, you know, sit and listen to them talk and stuff. So it was a fun time back then. And I just couldn't let my grandfather go. I only had him for like 9 years. And I just couldn't let his spirit in that way. And so that's when I created Papa Lemon. And I think I was 30 years old.
Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, thank you to Community Connect team for really pursuing the topic of a community reads event. You know, with the distance learning and the social distancing, Community Connect had to kind of shift their outreach and their engagement. And this was a creative idea that we first hope to have during February, I Love to Read Month, and celebration of lifting up really inspirational African-American individuals in our community. So thank you for being one of those in our community and being role model to all of our students, and especially our students of color. So thank you for that. And the fact that we were able to get your latest book, and we're anxious to also, once you release the newer books, to see what those are about. But the fact that the topic of bullying was in that book made it important for us to talk about who else do we need to have in the room with us. And so we've invited Bruce Cross from People Incorporated to be with us tonight to share a little bit of the resources and the information for our attendees around the impact of bullying and the mental health resources that we have available. And, you know, bullying can take shape and form in many different ways, and you can be bullied or you can be the bullier around many different topics. And I would imagine that everyone sometime in our lives have been either the bully or the bullier. And so, Bruce, we want to thank you for being with us tonight, and want to ask you to share a little bit about what People Inc. does in our district and our community. And then also if you have tips for students who have been bullied or witnessed bullying, and also for parents who may, or teachers who may witness. So that's a lot to throw at you.
I'm really happy to be here. I appreciate being here, and just great work. I'm really impressed with the book that I read, and hearing about the depression book. Just really powerful, and just really powerful to hear that you're helping people. That your words are so helpful. So that's just so important. Yeah, I'll just ramble for a little minute about our program. Our agency is People Incorporated, and Robbinsdale School District works with our agency and several other agencies to provide school-based therapy. And school-based therapy is similar to outpatient therapy, but it's in the school. More and more, we're finding that that's how we can access kids. I used to say that school-based therapy is for kids that can't find outside services, but really now I say school-based therapy, that's the way that kids access mental health services. Kids and families access mental health services through the school more and more. So I supervise a team of about 11 therapists, and each of those therapists lives in a school building in the Robbinsdale district. So about 11 different schools in the Robbinsdale district. There's a couple that we haven't been able to cover yet, but we're hoping to do that at some point. Again, the work in the school is really similar to outpatient work, that you're really assessing the mental health needs and working on mental health needs. It's open to any of the kids in the district in our schools, and then we also open it up to family therapy. We involve the family in the treatment and developing a treatment plan and working with the child, but also potentially working with the family as well. So we've been doing that for, me and Melody have been working together for quite a long time doing School Linked in the Robbinsdale district. So we do it in the Robbinsdale district. Our agency also does it up in another district, an Okehennepin district, and then there are other agencies around the state that do similar work. And again, I think that really is the way that it's moving, that the mental health services are available in the schools. So yeah, you mentioned maybe some tips. My thinking about bullying and certainly other issues, trauma and depression. Really, we encourage the kids to reach out to an adult. All of our schools have great adults in the building that care and know how to maneuver the system and get them to the right resources. Certainly, if the kid is getting bullied or a parent is worried about their child bullying, reach out to school staff, and they would know how to connect to our services, for instance, and then other outpatient programs as well. So I really think the key is to encourage kids to just know that there are adults in their world, especially in the schools, that there are adults that you can reach out to and get some help with whatever's going on. And, I certainly encourage the parents as well. I think my message for years now has just been that to press out to the kids and to the teachers and to the parents that services are available in the schools, and reach out to people in the schools to access mental health services. In the past, it's if you had gone to the schools, they might have said, gosh, well, let me give you some resources for outpatient therapy. But now it's in the school, and they should have access to a community agency that does the service and does it in the school. And so that's a great step. I don't know if I answered all those questions.
Yeah.
That was just sampling.
Yeah, I did. I threw a lot at you. You did a great job. So just to recap, if I'm a parent or I'm a student and I have some concerns, I wouldn't necessarily know who the therapist is. I would maybe go to one of the student support specialists in the school, like maybe the social worker or the culture and climate specialist or the psychologist, and then they would connect with the parent and your agency. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, we work really hard to make sure that our therapist is really embedded in the team so that every adult in the building, teachers included, knows that there is a therapist in the building, even if they don't know them personally, knows how to access that therapist in the building. So all agencies that are doing school-based work really hard at making sure that the entire team knows that these services are available and knows how to get the connection to the family.
As I say, Robbinsdale, we have some great student support specialists, and we certainly respect and value each and every one of them within our schools. And we were talking, before we started here about kind of trying to figure out about when we started putting the specialists in the school. So we, 20 plus years, we've been working with People Inc. or I guess the organization prior to People Inc. as well. You touched on it, and I heard you say it. Tonight's kind of subject is about bullying. Can bullying qualify for accessing services for a school-linked mental health?
Sure. Yeah, it's sort of the how it's affecting the child, and also how it's affecting the family. That yes, it can have a huge effect, and whether it's being bullied or whether it's bullying behavior, both of those things can click into be a thing to access services for. So yes, either of those, you'd certainly want to access the adults in the building and connect with therapists.
So what, if a child or parent wants or desires deeper support, perhaps a mental health therapist,
sure.
Could you help us understand, how a parent might access those therapeutic services, while at school, or,
Yep.
or how would a parent or guardian get enrolled for schooling mental health services?
Yep. So again, the parent would reach out to the school staff, and school staff would explain that, yes, we have a therapist in the building. Let me connect you with them. So they would maybe have an initial conversation with the school-based therapist who would explain the services, explain, that it's similar to outpatient services and would access insurance and things like that. And then there's other funding sources as well. So then we would, if the parent is open to that, we would go through our intake process, which might mean a meeting with the parent and the kid, sort of doing diagnostic assessment to really evaluate all the areas of their life and really get a sense of what's going on. Maybe something that hasn't been asked before that we would want to uncover at that point and come up with a clear picture of what we're looking at, and then work with the parent about what would be a good treatment plan. And then begin the service. And often that's individual therapy in the school with the kid, but sometimes that's individual therapy one week and family therapy the next week. We certainly involve the parents and the family as much as we can and as much as is appropriate. But yeah, that's the beauty of the school-based approach, that it's not going to see a therapist at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. It's hard to make that work all the time. It's right there in the building. And we coordinate with the school staff about when is a good time for me to pull that kid out of class to see that kid. Offices in the building, the districts have provided offices in each of the schools that we work in. Private office, confidential work, similar to seeing a therapist in an outpatient clinic. It's confidential. It's not shared with anyone else. The parent is involved in the treatment plan, but it's confidential work. And it would just be right there in the school during the school day, and just works great. It's just better access. It really clears out the obstacles and improves access so much for mental health services.
So if I have a child who's accessing services in the school from mental health services from a mental health agency in the school, such as People Inc., is that confidential, or will that be shared with others involved in the academic plan or services? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's all confidential. So even though we're in the building, it is our office and our client and sort of our file. So legally and ethically, we're obligated to keep confidentiality. It's licensed therapists or therapists that are master's level on their way to licensure. So there are rules that need to be followed about therapy that we really can't share. Yes, we do get a release to coordinate with the school. So there is a sort of piece of that where we're connected to the school team and can access the school team to gather information, but we're not really allowed to share, and it's really confidential work with the kid and the parent. So it works out great.
And being in the school can also help the staff understand any situation a student may be going through, and help teach to a student's situation or where the student is at.
Sure. Yeah, that's a huge part of it as well. Yes, it is. The bulk of the work is the individual work with the client, but we are also in the school and embedded in the team. So we help with sort of education about mental health issues, help with teachers managing different mental health issues, that sort of thing. So we do a lot of different things.
And so this kind of aligns with the 2 unified district vision goals that Community Connect has aligned their work with, and that is goal 1 of implementing policies and practices that open pathways to academic excellence for all students. So addressing that. And then goal 3, engaging family and community members as partners. So thank you to the district for seeing that as important, to Community Connect for engaging that, and to our community partners like Bruce and Lehman for helping us make that possible. I think you've answered the question that came up about if we were the bully, or if the student was the bullying. That also can be something that we can refer to SchoolLinked or to the student support services, which we are fortunate to have in our district, in a real quality group of crisis team members too.
Yeah.
There were also some additional resources put into the chat box that speak to the topic of bullying, as well as another list of books on topic that are age appropriate. So from elementary to preschool, to elementary, to middle and high. So in addition to the great book that Lehman has written and published and shared, there are some additional books there. So I encourage our families and our audience that are participating to look at that. Our books were provided, I just want to say, through the Department of Human Services grant to help communities build resiliency. And Robbinsdale was one of 4 state communities across the state to receive that micro grant. So we have extra copies of books if there's a group out in the community that would like them, or if people didn't see the link and would like to follow up and get a copy of the book, we certainly can do that. So please do share that with everyone else. I also wanted to share that Redesign will be going live with a resiliency website soon, which will also have opportunities for connections to resources, but also for each of us to bring our own strengths and wisdom to the table of how we impact resiliency. And, you know, we kind of look at resiliency as our ability to handle our life situations, but also to the way that our community and our families and our organizations respond to the cultural needs of our community and the trauma needs. So we do encourage everyone that you bring your wisdom and your strengths to the table, like Lehman did in his books, and like Bruce is doing with his organization. So Director Boone, are there plans for Community Connect to go back into the community live now that the social distancing has started to be lifted?
Yeah, absolutely. We discussed at our last meeting, some of the things that are still waiting for information on. We do have our next meeting this next Tuesday on June 8th. So we'll have a lot more information. I'm seeing things, being published now about local parades, local farmers markets, and the things that we were actively engaged in in all 7 of our communities. We had a presence in every one of them, either at a parade, at just having a booth at a farmer's market, or a booth at the local festival. As those plans get solidified and how those communities are going to dictate to us on, safety and health and safety precautions, we'll get ourselves out there once again. I know, this is one of those opportunities where we need to have some of those booths at the different farmers markets, at the different town festivals. We would have books. We would, our team, did a great job of finding resources, and we gave away free books. So this is another opportunity for us to, share Mr. Riley's materials as well too, through those avenues. So yep, we're working on those, and we'll have a little bit more information after we have our next meeting.
And so if some of our audience weren't familiar with Community Connect, but they wanted to learn more or they wanted to be involved, is that an opportunity for individuals to be involved to help?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We're always looking for input, and we've been growing over the last few years with, some real exciting community members joining our team and giving us input when they can. So people can get information more on Community Connect. If you go to, I'm going to click on this myself here just so I get the links right here. But if you just go to rdale.org, at the top, there is a link for community. And if you go in, you slide down into that, and there'll be where it says get involved. It says committees and volunteer opportunities. And if you click on that link, it gives us, all the different kind of committees and volunteer opportunities from starting with our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee to the next one is our Community Connect Committee, and there's Community Education Advisory Council. But if you click on the Community Connect Committee, it does give what I talked about earlier in terms of our charge. And then our meeting dates. And so our last one of this school year, like I said, will be next Tuesday, June 8th, and then we'll pick up again in August. But what we'll plan on doing too is putting the events that we will be at on that website as well. And we're always looking for people just to help man a booth, walk in a parade with us, hand out materials, and just be part of that excitement. Parades are a lot of fun. We can get out there and hand out a lot of our information, about our district, and sometimes these little gifts as well too.
Thanks for sharing that. I just want to kind of put our family and community engagement specialists on the spot. You didn't know I was going to do this, so I'm just going to ask you, could you share a little bit about what you do and the role that you play that is so important in our district and in our community? And I won't pick on anyone, but if someone wants to unmute and share, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Melody. And thank you, Mr. Riley and Mr. Cross, for being here with us. Very good information to get tonight. I was really glad to be a part of this evening's event. Family and community engagement works with the district to help support our families. We come into the schools if there is assistance that parents or any family members of a child may need. We're that resource for them. If there is sometimes language barriers, we assist in that as well. But we are trying to be the connection between the schools and the home. So we work hard at making sure that we can close that gap and take away the stigma of families not being engaged, because they are engaged, and we just have to meet them where they are on their engagement role. So that's what we do in a nutshell, but we are just there to aid the family and help them build a better connection with our school district.
Thank you for that important role you play in helping us reach the goals of the Unified District Vision. So thank you for that. I don't see any other questions being posed in the chat box, but I just wanted to share that when I asked some of our community members who read the book number 8, Layman, what their comments were. Some of them that hit me really, really at the heart were these. Our actions matter. Our actions matter. And if there ever was a year that we could repeat that, it would be this past year. So thank you for writing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your vulnerability. And then you also touched in book 8 about immigration, a very brief touch on immigration. And another person in our community said that the majority population of this country are immigrants.
Mhm.
And recent immigrants face much discrimination and maltreatment.
Yep.
And COVID-19 pandemic heightened these disparities and the disproportionality impacts on Indigenous, African American, Asian American, Pacific Islander communities, as well as our people living in poverty and people who are unemployed and underemployed. So thank you for all of you for the work that you do to address those disparities, to remove them, and to create thriving communities for all. And, you know, another person said, let's just be kind to one another, and together we can all thrive. Those were some really important comments that people shared from reading your book.
Mm,
So I hope you walk away with that.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna turn it back over to Director Boone.
I'd just like to say one more thing in the book that I am working on right now. It's on grief. So I want to help our youth understand it, face it, get through it. And I think it's very important to speak about it. So it's going to be a challenging one for me. So I'm going to get this one, and I'm just formulating it right now. So I'm just throwing things back and forth. But that I think is really needed. I've actually had police officers ask me to write this book 2 years ago. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to write about, but now I do. So now I know how to do it, but I just got to figure out how to get it in words that's going to help others. So,
That's great. Thanks for your work. That's terrific.
thank you.
So needed.
Absolutely, absolutely. These all seem to be, you know, really timely books when they come out. And I tell you, Mr. Riley, I really appreciate your comments at the beginning when you talked about, you know, how you write these books, and you know how you, you know, introduce diversity into the books, and that you learn from that as well too. That's part of the goal too, and you know that's part of our goal with Community Connect is, you know, to engage our community, to learn from each other, to you know, to respect each other's and each other's backgrounds and experiences. And, you know, I see that coming through in your books as well too. And, you know, what a wonderful way to do that, to introduce that to our kids, because that certainly fits in with what we're trying to do in the Robbinsdale School District with our Unified District Vision. As Melody mentioned, our goals with Unified District Vision, and then our goals with Community Connect to, you know, to engage with our community, and you know, to promote positive community connections.
Mhm.
You know, so we're honored to have you here this evening to share your story, your stories, and you know, help inspire that next generation of writers. And you know, thank you, Mr. Cross, for being here too, as well as a resource for us to understand how, you know, we can access school-based mental health resources. And truly appreciate your time this evening. And also can't go without saying here, the team from Achievement Integration, you know, what you guys do on a daily basis, and how you take and run with these ideas, and be creative. And this came out of the work that you all are doing. As Melody mentioned, that, you know, this was an idea to do this during February, where everybody loves to read month, and this grew and blossomed in making the connections with our community and Mr. Riley. So really appreciate your work. This is looking forward to getting back to what we do and seeing each other at these events again. Thank you, everybody. This is good feelings.
Yeah, it was terrific. Thanks so much.
Thanks to the Family and Community Engagement Specialist. Edgar has put in the chat box if you'd like to receive additional copies or didn't get copies or know someone who would like them. We want to get the books out into the hands of our community members. We look forward to working together. How great, I was thinking here, boy, what if we spurred additional books from our student writers? What if we spurred additional parent books? How fun would it be to have a Robbinsdale Area Schools community corner for self-published or writing just from our community? So Layman, look what you started, this domino effect. Thanks everyone and allowing me to be part of this as well. With that, I think, Director Boone, we could adjourn a few minutes early.
Yeah, I just encourage everybody to go to that link, that YouTube link that's in the chat, and the book being read. And like I said, Melody, I liked that at the beginning, just, maybe just call up as a family and, have the book read to you. And everybody enjoys having a book read to them. I remember those days too. So just again, thank everybody. And again, this recording will be available on lots of our resource platforms. And like I said, hopefully this grows and inspires some of our youth.
Have a great summer, everyone.